Mr. Mills, you know where I'm driving at? I'm not talking about you and me and just Nikwe. I'm talking about generations to come, and also the majority of Africans who may go to the classroom, right, and still come out walking backwards. That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to see if we can set in motion something like creating a new curriculum in African education where we can get history taught, not as Europeans taught us, but we ourselves teaching, ourselves. What do you think about that?
I think that is precisely true, and it's not only history. The curriculum that we have was designed and fashioned for us to think not as Africans, but foreigners in our own land. And I don't think why that curriculum should continue if it's miseducating us. We have our own resources. We have chances to build our human capacity to change what is going on if it's not applicable to our situation, if it cannot solve our problems. So that is so true, and we cannot leave it for somebody. Like I said earlier, if you want to write your own history, you have to start from somewhere. We cannot leave things the way they are. Something went wrong down along the line, and we don't seem to be ready to do corrections. And that's the sad situation that we find ourselves in. So to come to that, your point of people telling us we never contribute to civilization, it's because of how we've been taught. We've been hijacked.
Nikwe, can you jump in?
I'm not sure if I completely agree with the hijack situation. In a way, he's right, but in other ways, we also kind of do this to ourselves by not wanting to learn more. I mean, if you look at today's society, the hijack part that I agree is that if you look at our education system, African American history is not taught in a percentage in comparison to everything else that is taught in history-wise. It's probably one of the lowest percentage of the education because, of course, they wouldn't want you to know too much. The truth, our history really is painful, and not everybody can handle it. So in that aspect, I do agree. But at the same time, a lot of our people just don't care about anything that happened in history. They feel disconnected with their roots, and we don't have enough leaders to constantly remind them of where it is that they come from. So now they're disconnected from the roots, and everybody's becoming more westernized instead of finding out resources from exactly where it is that they come from. So that's my take on this.
You know, I'm actually very, very happy today to be talking to the two of you. And what I'm driving at is this. I don't respect people who have knowledge and keep it to themselves. Because if you die without knowledge. It's actually useless knowledge. This particular topic that we're dealing with, power lost, comes from the late Listerveld Middleton, writing in his classic Southern Winds, African Breezes. And he has a poem with the title, The Origins of Things. The first stanza reads, "Look around you, black child. Your creation is everywhere. Though painted, distorted, and given new names, they bear your prints just the same." It went on to say you were the first to write and the first to read. Mr. Mensah, what is your take on the revelation that we were the first to write and the first to read? And Mr. Ashi, feel free to jump in.
All right, I will.
Well, I'm not an expert in history, but from so far, the history book that have been fed to Africans have indicated that writing, not only writing, technology, and any sort of learning started from the Nile civilization. And we have we have proof to that. There are so many evidence. We have a type of writing that have been misnamed. The actual name of this writing were Medinita. And for some reason, when the Greek, or maybe the Assyrians went into, actually it was Greek, when they went into Egypt, they were fascinated and they tried to explain those type of writing in their own way. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got the name hieroglyphic for those writings. And hieroglyphic would mean the holy writings of God. So we have these things, and if you go there, it's not only hieroglyphic that you see in Egypt. You have architectural civilization that started with the pyramids. You have paintings, you have carving, you have, you name it. Every endeavor of education was existing at the time. So it's rather evoking that somebody is able to bring that to light. And it's also inspirational for us to know that we're not just empty, we're not just, our brain was not empty before we encountered the Western world. We have our own way of doing things. And culture, there's no, in terms of culture, there's no right or wrong. It's a way of doing things.
Nikwe?
I want to touch base on what Mr. Mensah said in regards to this is inspiring. It is inspiring if you think about it in more details. I mean, if you look at the text itself for Metaneta, it's pretty complex at the same time. It's also creative, which shows the creative mind of our forefathers. Furthermore, if you talk about the pyramids, if I'm not mistaken, it's built from the ground up because there's a tomb at the bottom of each pyramid, which is incredible technology that, I mean, it goes beyond my comprehension. Even simpler things that our forefathers had wisdom of that in today's world, it's not even found anymore. For example, if I was to walk down the street and let's say I forgot my watch and forgot my phone, and I ask a fellow, can you tell me the time? If that person also doesn't have their cell phone or is not wearing a watch, they'll most likely tell me that, sorry, I can't tell you what time it is. I don't know what time it is. If I was to ask this very same question to any one of our forefathers 300 years ago, he would simply look at his shadow and tell me what time it is. Yeah. Very, very, very simple, but it's very profound. It's the exact same concept with something as simple as learning your north, south, east, and west. If I go outside right now and do the same thing, most people would tell me, sorry, you're on your own. I don't have a GPS. But if you ask our forefathers again 300 years ago, they'll look at the sun, and knowing that the sun rises from the east, sets in the west, they'll tell you where you need to go. Simple as that, you know? So our forefathers are very intelligent people, and this is a message that we need to get out there so we can instill pride in our young people so that, you know, they know that, hey, GPS is great, but our forefathers could do this without GPS, you know? So that's something that I wanted to add to this to show the intelligence of our forefathers.
Beautiful. Now, answer, any of you can answer this. When Middleton says we're the first to write and the first to read, even though you've already covered it, I just wanted to go over it again. What is he talking about? What we know today as hieroglyphics is actually what he's talking about. But then hieroglyphics is Greek. The Greeks saw the African writing and called it so because they found that there was power in it. Africans call this writing, as Mr. Mensah had already indicated, Meduneta, the word of God, or divine speech. They show divine speech is exactly where that is coming from. But Majority of Africans don't know this. Is this true?
Yeah, it's so true because I wouldn't even go far. If I'll be honest to myself, for a few years back, I had no clue what all these things were all about. And I actually didn't even believe black people occupied the Nile Valley, or they actually started civilization. But talking about what this lady says in her poem, is not only writing. We did more than just writing. The writing involved science and technology. Black people along the Nile call chemistry science for black people.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody who knows about physical sciences, chemistry is actually the root of all sciences.
Okay.
So it's even more than just saying we started writing, we wrote and developed our own technology along the Nile Valley before Greek and Romans came.
Nikwe?
I agree with what Mr. Mensch is saying. In fact, a lot of people don't know this. I myself didn't know this till a couple of years ago also. And I think the reason why we don't know this is because often enough, a lot of us don't really have the time or care to dig deeper into history to find out about our roots. In regards to the name change, I can somewhat understand why the names would have changed along the ways. I mean, for example, Africa being called Akubuland from back in the days before the Greek and Romans changed it. But I think I can understand why that name was changed. Because, for example, if I left Ghana, let's say 300 years ago, came to America, and I stayed for a few years, went back to Ghana, and told the people of Ghana what I saw in America, I'm going to explain to them in my own language, right? So I can understand the Greek changing those names. But the problem I have with this is that we Africans have adopted these names. So now, instead of us calling our land from what our forefathers called them, now we're using the foreign land, the foreign name. The exact same thing goes for something like the N-word. I don't want to use the N-word. I don't even use the N-word. But the thing is, in today's society, a lot of people do. Now, my question is, if you're a black person and you know that your forefathers were insulted and they were degraded by this word, why would you now call your very own brother the same name, trying to make it cool? It's not cool, right? But we're basically trying to become westernized, and we're forgetting where exactly we come from and the roots behind the beings that we are. I also partially put a little bit of blame on our forefathers for not doing a good enough job to instill these things in us, because realistically a lot of us don't know this. It's only through reading our history that we come across these things. And like you said, Mr. Ayala, you said that as our forefathers descend, we lose that information, and then what happens? That information is dead to us. It's useless. So that is really what is happening. As we lose our forefathers and they don't pass on this information, then we're losing information slowly. Then our generation is dying. So for me, that's kind of what I take from this.
Well, when we have discussions like this, something is working, because we are the people who can pressure our governments, our systems, because actually our first generation leaders disappointed us when they took over power. They thought that just taking over a nation is just a matter of running it as a European, the way the Europeans set it up.